everybody. Welcome to the Gapology Guys, your place for identifying and closing performance gaps in your organizations, your teams, and especially within yourselves. And tonight we have a great topic we've been hearing a lot about recently, managing change fatigue. In many organizations, teams frequently, and most commonly each year, find themselves in situations where they need to navigate and lead through change. And that frequency often causes fatigue in the teams. So tonight we'll dig into this topic a bit more. So let's go ahead and get things started with Mark Tinas. Hey Mark, how you doing?
Good, Brian. How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired. I'm sort of worn out from travel. As you know, we had this fantastic opportunity to travel internationally all the way to Canada last week.
Gapology spreading?
Yeah, worldwide, Mr. Worldwide.
That's
Uh,
great.
but yeah, no, it was a great session with the leadership team from the city of Kawartha Lakes, which is sort of about an hour and a half or so northeast of Toronto. So I flew into Toronto and then had to drive a little bit. But what a beautiful area. Oh my gosh. I mean, it totally felt like old lake country, like in Minnesota, where I'm from. Really took me back to that. And I would love to travel up there sometime just as a tourist. It was really, really beautiful up there.
Yeah, that's exciting. Thanks
Yeah.
for doing that.
Yeah, no, of course. And the team, I mean, they were so engaged in everything with Gapology. Participation was fantastic. They had great questions, interaction. And then we did the takeaways at the end where we sort of went around person to person. And what I found interesting there was that people really weren't sharing a lot of the same things. It's like everybody kind of took different things away from the session. So I thought that was really cool, very unique.
Well, it sounds like they led different parts of the city,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the city government. Yeah,
exactly. Yep. Different
yeah.
areas of the government there. Yeah,
So the gaps are different, but the great news is Gapology works everywhere
yeah, for
for
sure. So,
everything.
yeah, no, Becky and team up there, they did a great job, and I'm looking forward to hearing their results.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So tonight we're talking about change fatigue. How do you manage that? So, oftentimes organizations go through periods of change, and sometimes it's repeatedly going through different times of change. Often it's like every year there's some sort of new change that they have to navigate, and it can really sort of wear people down over time if it's done repeatedly without the right leadership. So. I'm excited to talk about this stuff with you, Mark, and get your perspective on it.
Yeah, change is becoming more and more prevalent,
Hmm.
and leaders have to understand how to navigate change with their teams so it doesn't create a burnout.
Yeah,
And what you're calling change fatigue, I guess, really does fit, and it's a key leadership skill that we can speak to tonight.
right. It did occur to me as you were saying that it might tie in somewhat to IMBAR, our other book that we have around identity and mindset, and how you need to be aware of those mindsets of your team as you're going through change. And I think there's some things we could probably talk about, maybe on a different podcast, about how it connects with IMBAR.
Well, I think Gapology, MBAR, and Speed of Purpose all really do give tools to leaders for managing change fatigue and how to work through change. And as a leader, you have to be good at this today because it's going to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So what kind of tips do you have for us?
Well, I think the first thing I would go after is that Gapology really laid out a framework for managing through change and change fatigue. If you think about the knowledge gap, um, closing the knowledge gap on the change is critical. The team needs to know what they need to know. The leader has to work them through that and answer their questions. So by closing the knowledge gap, you literally help with change fatigue and approaching that first.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you think about our communications model, tell them what they need to know, tell them why it matters, and tell them what they need to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the key piece there. So really starting with that knowledge gap.
Yeah. So starting with what they need to know and not leaving that until the leader knows they know. And that is key. And again, people learn at different levels. They learn at different speeds, and you have to know that the team is there. And then to your point, the importance of the change has got to be understood. So telling them why it matters, and then I would come back with random recaps. Brian, what did you get out of the session so far? Walk us through, you know, why it matters that we're making this change, and you work your way around the room and ensure that everybody understands it. So telling them why it matters is key, and ensuring again that they understand that, and really answering any concerns at that point would be key.
Yeah.
Having the team open up about their questions and concerns would be significant. And then moving on to closing the action gap, what you need from them, what they need to do, and answering the questions around that. So using Gapology, through the knowledge gap, importance gap, and action gap really does overcome change fatigue.
Hmm.
And it may not be easy, but it's a simple framework that you can use, and it works.
Yeah. Yeah. And it occurred to me as you're saying that, you mentioned speed of purpose, really connecting specifically around the, I guess, importance gap, but connecting to your organizational purpose. That I guess connects people at a deeper level than just understanding that they have to go through another change. They can really understand the why and how it helps to deliver your purpose.
Yeah, so the leader would need to come prepared to help the team understand that, how it ties together. The other key in speed of purpose is tying every role to the purpose. So in this case, tying every role to the change, to the new process, whatever it is huge. And if the leader can come prepared with that in advance and help the team understand that, it's gonna move everyone forward rather quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes when change happens in maybe it's adjacent departments or other areas of the business, there's sort of this snowball effect that sometimes happens where that change, that transition that people go through, that emotional, impact sometimes does snowball onto other areas. So tying it to the purpose, making sure that every role understands how they contribute to the change, how they contribute to the overall, goals and objectives and mission and all those pieces. I think that's really critical for the leader to build into their leadership rhythm as they're leading that team through.
Yeah. The other thing that I'm not hearing enough of from leaders is the random recap behavior, to where they pause every 15 minutes and say, okay, let's see, I haven't called on you yet. Brian, walk me through your notes on what we're changing, why it matters, and what your role is. And having the whole group then connect around that in a simple, friendly manner, but closing gaps is key. So if as a leader you're not doing random recaps during your weekly meetings, whatever your frequency of meetings is, it really is a significant tool to ensure that the team understands what they need to know, why it matters, and what they need to do.
Yeah, yeah. I think the a couple important things with the random recaps. First of all, I think setting the stage for it ahead of time, letting people know you're going to do it. I think that's
Yeah.
important just to reduce anxiety and fear and so forth.
Well, it
But
also it also creates a greater level of attention.
yeah,
If they
exactly.
know you're going to do it, they're going to take better notes, they're going to listen better, they're going to ask questions and get prepared, because in a moment they'll be speaking about it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And in addition to all that, I think it can really set the stage for the team to understand that you value the input of each of the team members. So if you say, we haven't heard from you yet, that if it's set up properly, that can
Huge.
show that you value their opinions and
Yeah,
thoughts.
huge.
Hmm.
It's huge. And that you care, and that you're likely answering questions in that conversation that the whole group has, but they haven't surfaced them. But because we called on you, you surfaced those questions and concerns, whatever they may be, and the whole group moves forward because of that.
Hmm.
The other amazing tool that's in Gapology, which we talk about all the time, is the habit ladder. And as a leader, if you use the habit ladder effectively, you can overcome change fatigue as well. You want to talk about that? It's a great tool for that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I mean the habit ladder is so powerful. It fits into many, many areas of gapology. We present it in the training root solution piece, but it ties in everywhere. But as especially I think with change, as you're leading people through change, you have to, have great communication model that you build out using that, tell them what they need to know, why it matters, and what they need to do. You need to validate understanding, verify agreement. If you don't do those things, you're not going to know where the gaps are in understanding what the changes that you're asking people to do. And and that whole agreement piece, that's that commitment where you can really tell at that stage who's committed to it or not. And that would be providing the signs on whether they're feeling that fatigue.
Yeah. And you can go around the room and say, "Are you in?
Yeah.
Are you in? Are you in?" I was, I heard a presentation last week from a leader who was trying to explain to the entire group why she was performing at a higher level than they were and why she was excelling. And she said, it's because I use the habit ladder.
Yeah.
I use it on everything. I communicate to my team. I verify they understand that communication around whatever it is. I ask for their commitment and agreement to do it. We then practice it and they get feedback, and that creates habit. And once we're at habit level, if I'm focused on the right stuff, it changes the results. And that's why, I'm winning. That
Hmm.
was the whole explanation, was the habit ladder,
Yeah.
the simple 5 steps, and it all comes together. But if you're going through a significant change, the habit ladder is your best friend. Just pull it out and use it over and over again,
Yeah.
and it works.
Yeah. The interesting thing there, with the practice and feedback piece, that's going to be where you sort of uncover some of this fatigue as you're starting to put in place the new, whatever you're changing, the new methods or behaviors. As you're getting that feedback and you're providing feedback, it's that dialogue, that two-way communication. That's where you're going to uncover that. That's going to provide the information about the gaps. And, once they get to the habit level, that's all about reinforcement and recognition and so forth. So, getting there, I think that recognition piece, you have to lead with recognition for those who are starting to meet those change goals that you have.
Yeah. When we wrote Gapology, it was all about closing performance gaps to achieve great performance. But if you think about it, it really is a book about change, how to lead through change. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. So we even discuss, in the book DABA, DABA. For any of you that don't know DABA, it's a big deal. Leaders need to understand DABA because as you go through change, your team will go through DABA, and so will you, by the way. And so DABA is the how do we phrase it? The phases of change in essence,
Right.
and it starts with denial. We're changing things again. You're kidding, right? And then it drifts to anger, and it that can be evident. And then there's this wall that you have to help the team over, that you likely have to go over as well to achieve, bargaining. Well, what if we tweaked this a little? What if we did this? What if that's a really good sign when that happens, when they begin to bargain around the change, and then to acceptance. So DABA, denial, anger, bargaining, and acceptance, the phases of change in essence. And again, a leader has to understand it because they have to explain to the group why they got to acceptance so quickly, why they believe in this change that we're doing. And that really helps everyone. And you can have the team speak to their own, to their own DABA. And but that's in Gapology as well. A book of change. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's interesting. It really is. Um, that I think that anger phase that you mentioned, that's where people sort of get stuck in that I don't know, cycle. Um,
Loop.
yeah, loop. Yeah, that's a good phrase for it. Where they just can't move past that wall, and fatigue, I think, can really be one of those, I think, outcomes of being stuck in that loop for too long.
Well, the amazing thing we found is that it's not the first person over the wall that does the best job with the new change. It often is someone caught in denial and anger who then gets to a level of bargaining and acceptance and outperforms the rest of the group. So you as a leader have to understand it because each person's DABA is individualized. It's theirs. And once they're over the wall, if they get over the wall, they can perform at a totally different level. So you have to be aware of it. It can't be something you deny. And you as a leader, again, go through your own DABA. So you may be experiencing denial and anger as you're presenting the change to the team. That's a problem. You have to you have to figure out how to get over that wall yourself, or you may communicate ineffectively, and the team will pick up on your lack of buy-in to the change.
Yeah.
If you're not over the wall, they will see it.
Yep.
They'll see it in your words, in your body language, in your behavior. So it's something that leaders have to be aware of, and we go into detail about it in Gapology, so you can be aware of it. So Gapology really is change leaders' best friend. Closing the knowledge gap, the importance gap, the action gap, the habit ladder, communicating, verifying their understanding, asking for their agreement, practice and feedback, and then creating habit through that, and then understanding DABA and the phases of denial, that are represented there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, one of the key pieces you mentioned there is really, I think, modeling the behavior you're expecting from the team. Being the example. If you have questions or you're stuck in anger or, you're kind of in that loop, I think it's really important to connect with your leaders, the people that are maybe above you, possibly peers, people that can help you move forward. We've talked in the past about first team first, and during times of change, that's incredibly important to have first team first, where that first level of leadership's really aligned before you ever start to communicate to the rest of the group.
Yeah, yeah. Change can be messy. I've seen leaders tell the group, "Hey, I'm not on board with this either, but we've got to do it." That that's not a pathway to greatness.
Yeah.
So you've got to figure it out. And leading through change is one of the key competencies of a great leader. So if you're out there and this isn't one of your core competencies, you need to get there. And Gapology, Speed of Purpose, and MBAR really are your best friends around this. It wasn't our intent at the time we documented them and wrote them. But if you think about it, as we looked at those winning leaders, that top 10%, that A group, they were all masters of change. They knew how to lead the team forward through change.
Right. Right. That really is a test of your leadership. If you're if you're a poor communicator and you're not connected with the change and you don't have the skills to lead teams through it, that crushes trust in a team, and that will totally break down your leadership overall. So, yeah. So I would say for sure, if you haven't read the book, pick up a copy, listen to it on Audible. We have it on Audible as well, and a lot of great tips in there.
Yeah, give us a call, send us an email. We've got the updated 15th anniversary edition of Gapology coming out in the next few months, so we're excited about that. Um, it doesn't change Gapology, it just brings it up to date on some stuff. So,
Yep, exactly. We've expanded a bit, added in some additional learning pieces and so forth, things that we've learned from all of our clients out there. So, and things that we talk about on the podcast. So yeah, we'll let you know when that's available, but it's coming soon. We're getting close.
All right.
Yep. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye.
All right. That'll do it from here. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Or if you're listening to the audio-only version, subscribe there as well to get all the latest content. And for more information on all of this, head on over to our website, gapology.org. Everyone have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you soon.